In the past 48 hours, mayhem has returned to Manipur as the crisis enters its fifth month. Hundreds of students and women have been clashing with security forces. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo story. At the heart of the Manipur crisis is now a claim by protesters, many of them students, that pellet guns, last seen in the Kashmir Valley during insurgency years, have been used on protesters. Dramatic visuals have emerged from Manipur in the last 48 hours, some of which you're seeing on your screen. Security forces say that they had to use tear gas. They have denied thus far using pellet guns, but protesters have been releasing images that point to pellet gun injuries. Now, as somebody who has reported extensively from Kashmir, we can tell you that pellet guns are extremely contentious. They caused a great deal of controversy, even when used in an insurgency conflict zone like Kashmir. The Manipur Child Rights Panel has in fact urged the security agencies to be very mindful of minimizing the use of force. The Manipur Police in a statement has said that they have been cognizant of that fact and that iron rods, stones and marbles have been used to attack those in uniform. All around, it's a very, very delicate situation. We have seen also certain establishments being set on fire. We have seen vehicles being set on fire. And quite honestly, some of the images that we have seen of the injuries are simply too graphic for us to share as a responsible platform, but we will be bringing home to you the full extent of what we are picking up from our colleagues and our reporters on the ground in Manipur. This latest cycle of violence has erupted after photos that went viral revealed that two teenage students had been taken away or had gone missing in July, that they had been found dead. The photographs, in fact, showed the bodies of these students slumped over. The families had been protesting since July. In fact, they were among the first protests that I covered. I met with these families in August, and even at that time, the families kept saying to me that they felt or they feared that their children were no longer alive, and their worst fears have come true. The images are truly, truly disturbing. And remember, this is a crisis that is now entering its fifth month. What is the road ahead? Manipur is back to having been declared a disturbed area, the entire state, with the exemption of 19 police stations. Let's introduce our guest on the program today as we continue to look at the crisis in Manipur. Let me first welcome to the program Professor Ramesh Singh. If I can bring him up on the screen, there's Professor Ramesh Singh. He's an assistant professor at JNU. Welcome to the program, sir. Also joining us on the program today is Dr. Thangzakhoop Tombing. He's with the National Law University and Judicial Academy. Welcome to the program, Dr. Tombing. Also joining us is Rami Niranjan Desai. She's an author and a columnist. She has a specialization in affairs of the Northeast. Welcome back to the program, ma'am. And also joining us on the program today, we welcome to the program Colonel Gaurav Chaturvedi. He's been a commandant with the Assam Rifles. Thank you very much, all of you. Just to put into context what started this, I want to play the clip of one of the parents of one of the teenagers that went missing. As I said, this was among the first protests that I reported on the ground from Manipur. And after these families discovered that their children had in fact been killed, at least according to the viral photographs, the bodies are yet to come home. The parents are devastated. This is a small excerpt of what the father of one of the children killed said.
Masi yamna lemjadaba adugi mathakta lebak macha tajadaba tasengna sarkar oiragadi makoina mating matona leibo oragadi numit tareni yimba makoina phidong da tawgibado adugi tawgibado maina tasengma justice numit tareni sibugi monjida ko makoina thindadana putoga mogi justice to ai pame tasengbado numit tareni sibugi justice to tasengna sabchana tawbiyo Prime Minister and Piggy 30% na do mo pila to high naman se tasena to di BJP government sina atuno matam na right justice to use hani amuk do mi do adu dia no waris mai mi do mani ye mi do abu to udri pusi adu mo luksi mi do ai udri ai as mi do
It's heartbreaking and very difficult. It's very difficult to watch. And the father basically there, we had subtitles, but I'll just summarize. He's saying the Prime Minister has been talking about women's empowerment. This is about my daughter. I want justice for her. I said 7 days. Everybody reacted with outrage when the women who were paraded naked in the viral video, that video went viral. I want the same response from the country for what has happened to my daughter. I want the prime minister who's been talking about women's empowerment to respond to this. I want justice for my daughter. It's a longer interview, and I can see many of you are extremely disturbed. It was very difficult to watch it. And I'll start with you, Professor Rumesh Singh, if I may. These are two teenagers from the Meitei community. This has led to a new round of violence, but at a human level, the suffering is so horrible and so deep. Rumesh, sir?
Hello, Barkha. I mean, your voice is mixed. I can't hear properly.
Okay,
Can
just
you?
share your thoughts when you're watching what's happened. Share your thoughts with us, Ramesh.
Okay. Barkha, it was very shock. I think it is something which we need to condemn, not to repeat such kind of events in the future, irrespective of any community. So, all the citizens of these countries have to condemn this brutal killing, so that it cannot repeat, it cannot happen to any of us in the future. And the government has to take some its role on how to tackle this kind of incident and how to tackle the violence which is happening in Manipur. And the government has the role of the government is to protect its own citizen, and they have to provide the security of the citizen. But looking very minutely at what is happening in Manipur, I think government is doing nothing. So if the government is unable to provide for security of the citizen, then it will be a very difficult situations for all of us. So I would like to request both the state, I mean, the state, I mean, both the Indian and state government, they have to take this issue, what is happening in Manipur, very seriously.
Yes. One of the things you said is that the government is doing nothing. Now, Rami, I'll tell you what's ironic. If we meet with people in the Kuki community, they say this. If we meet with people in the Meitei community, these two teenagers were from the Meitei community, they say this. The citizen is feeling unprotected by the state. And you are seeing images of young students clashing with security forces. Rami, I want your thoughts.
Hello, Baka.
Mute. Barkha, good evening. First of all, it's absolutely heart-wrenching to see what I just saw. This
Yes.
should not be the norm anywhere, let alone in Manipur, which has already gone through 4 months of this prolonged emotional process. Whether it's the women being paraded, whether it's this, justice has to be served, and it has to be served quickly. But of course, yes, I have been on the ground, Barkha. I have just come back from Manipur, and I have been into the interiors. I have met with both the communities and the stakeholders. Yes, there is this inherent fear in all communities that that violence might break out or things are still tense. But I have also spoken to leadership from these communities, and I think it's very difficult to bring about some amount of normalcy if people are not willing to cede space on what their demands are. Negotiations are on, and there have been rigorous negotiations happening in Delhi, happening in Manipur as well. But that's not going to come to any fruition if we realize we aren't going to get 100% of what we want. That's wishful thinking. And for the greater good of Manipur, I think it's really important that representatives of these communities decide what really is achievable at this point or not, because this kind of conflict at this point, Barkha, is going to lead none of the communities anywhere. I also spoke about disarming communities, and I realized the trust deficit also exists. So one community says, oh, we are not going to give up our arms because I don't know, the other community might attack, and vice versa. So I think really, and I know this might, you've seen a lot of conflicts, you've been on ground, and I know at some point you might feel that this is very wishful thinking, but I don't think we have another way out apart from keeping our differences aside, at least beginning some amount of dialogue, and coming to a common ground, however basic that is at this point. We cannot, I'm not saying that the government should not have its own, representation and should not continue doing the dialogue that it is. And it does have responsibility. It needs to shoulder the responsibility. But I think communities also need to come together and do this. What we see on social
in a way, what I'm hearing from you, sorry to interrupt you, in a way, what I'm hearing from you is that the state can make only a limited intervention at this point. The state can enable a dialogue, but eventually the solution has to come from a dialogue between the Meitei and the Kuki community. Is that what you're saying, Rami?
Barkha, I do believe that that is a great starting point, and it would really, supplement the work that the government is doing, or if people believe are not doing. I'll give you a small example. When the videos or the photographs of this unfortunate incident came out, the internet had just been lifted. Yes, normalcy hadn't come in, but we were limping towards it. And suddenly, it to me seems like a very devious plan to release these photographs at this point. Who knows where it came from? But again, it put Manipur back in the same place that it started in. And I think everybody needs to be a little smart, needs to be a little calm, and I don't think that's much to ask for the greater common good of Manipur.
Yeah. You know what? I was listening to you and I was thinking that exactly the same set of questions were asked when the video of the viral video in which the two women were paraded naked, and and one of them had been gang raped, as we now know from the FIR. That time too, people said, okay, why now? Who's filming? Who's leaking? We don't know. But what we do know, and I will tell everybody this, that I went to Manipur in August. And when I went in early August, I met the families of these two children on the streets in Manipur. This is the protest that I covered then. And the women of these two teenage children, the women of their homes broke down in my arms. They had no one to talk to. So they were holding on to me and they were just sobbing. And they said, can you do something? Because we're sure that our children are basically, we believe that our children are not going to come back alive. And when I saw the news, it just felt so personal. I felt so helpless. Now, if I'm feeling helpless, and I just can't imagine what the families are going through. But equally, the families I've been meeting in the Kuki community who are waiting for their bodies to come home 5 months later, because the highways that are separating areas that are just 1 hour apart are blocked by one protest or the other. There is suffering in both communities. And now we are taking a very dangerous turn because we have students. We have 50 school students in the list of injured released by the community today. And the protesters are saying pellet guns have been used. Officials are denying this, but the injuries, the injuries point to the fact that in some instances, pellet guns may well have been used. I want Colonel Chaturvedi to come in here. We are also seeing another dangerous thing. Women protesters have been clashing with the Assam rifles, Colonel Chaturvedi, and I want your sense. This is a very dangerous phase. All of it is dangerous. All of it is not good for India. All of it is not good for Manipur. But now we're seeing open clashes and little schoolgirls who are pushing against men in uniform. Colonel Chaturvedi, your thoughts, sir?
Yeah. So, ma'am, I come from a background. So, let me assure you that I have been to Manipur for 7 years of my life, of my military career of 25, 26 years. So, I've been there thrice. So, I've been to South Manipur in the 90s, then, in Imphal area and in Northwest Manipur, and then took, of course, in Mizoram. So, if you go back to firstly, I will just throw light on the history of the region. Every decade, there has been some eruption like that. In the early 90s, 92, as a young rookie of 20 years, 6 months, I have seen the Kuki Naga war happening in South Manipur, which of course they will all know of. Of which Sanjay Hazarika speaks of in his various books. And then coming on to early 2000, just post Kargil war, we have the next very big event happening, which is called liberation of Manipur war from both ends, when a lot of people came inside and there were liberated zones, and then it was deliberated or whatever. So my unit was part of the entire operation. And then coming on to when I commanded Assam Rifle in Manipur, there was this Naga blockade of the Imphal Valley happening. all over. And I have been in the thick of it because I was commanding 75 kilometers of the Jiribam Silchar Imphal highway. I mean, the highway which was open. That was the only place where the entire rations had come for. And
Yeah.
so, you know, the most important thing for I think the mainland people of India is that to resolve the issue you need to have very strong-willed people who know firstly the ethnicity of the region, who have been there, who understand the psyche of the people over there. I mean, Nagas, Kukis, and Meiteis. So Meiteis are Vaishnavite Hindus. They belong to the valley. There is a horseshoe called Manipur. The in the center is the valley, and the entire horseshoe is surrounded by mountains. The first string is of Kukis, the second is of Nagas, and in South Manipur, it's along the border. There are basically Kukis. So there is, and there is the free move. FMR used to be there. I don't know if it's there or no. I'll have to check it. 16 kilometers, both sides of the border, there used to be free move. There are border crossing points. And most importantly, Manipur is a matriarchal society. The women lead. So that's why we are seeing women. I have also faced crowds of 5,000 women and children on that in the None area. But there was not a single shot fired in my time in 1 year. So we need a lot of forbearance in dealing with women and with civilians in general.
And
A lot of
and women in both communities, I'll come to Dr. Tombing, but women in both communities actually have been on the highways. In some cases, they have blocked the
yes.
police. In some cases, they have blocked the army. I want, before I come to Dr. Tombing, for you to talk about pellet guns. I saw these guns in Kashmir. We have no official confirmation that these guns have been used, but the protesters say they have. They've released images, most too graphic to show, of injuries that are typical of those taken by by pellets. Now, these were very controversial even when they were used in Kashmir, Colonel Chaturvedi. And the child rights panel of Manipur is saying there are students on the street. Please be careful. The Manipur police is saying we are being attacked with iron rods and stones. It's a very complicated situation, Colonel Chaturvedi. Can you talk a little bit about these pellet guns, pellet bullets that the protesters are now talking about?
See, pellet guns are like a part of the international weaponry, which is called NLWs, non-lethal weapons for crowd control, and for this, there are various categories of even tear gas forms part of it. Now, having said that, man, firstly, I'm sure that the man on ground is the man on ground. I mean, he or she, women soldiers or men, males or females, they're all somebody's brother, father, sister, and nobody wants to die in a melee like this. And yes, having been through it in Manipur itself, it's a horrific, traumatic experience even for soldiers to undergo these, people who might be throwing Molotov cocktails and petrol bombs on you, burning fires all around. Having said that, in None town, I have been under very heavy fire on the road. I will not dwell on the incident, but and my radio chatter was full of you move out of that place. I said, never run away from battle. Why would I run away now? And we did, but I realized in 10 seconds the bullets are going up over us. So we didn't, we just don't mow down everybody over there. It would have been a very bad bloodbath.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I think, pellet guns might or might not be there. I don't know. But I feel that using non-lethal weaponry is better than using absolute lethal weaponry. Soldiers across the world are form part of some controversy or other because of the nature of their job.
Yeah.
It's a very stressful job they are doing. It has got very long-lasting implications on their lives. And I mean, if you ask me as a soldier, I won't use a pellet gun or an AK-47 on anyone if I would care. But then if my life as a human being is threatened or my group is threatened, sometimes, in self-defense, we might have to open fire at people. And yes, it goes across.
But I will just also remind everybody, Colonel Chaturvedi, I take your point, but I also want to say that we are in a situation. I said this in August. Our children are holding guns in parts of Manipur. defending what are called buffer zones, and now our children are out on the streets. Not, I'm not saying everyone is an unarmed child. I'm sure there are others in it, as you spoke about petrol bombs, stones, iron rods, Molotov cocktails. I don't want to simplify what is happening on the ground, but there are also children. In fact, there have been protests today. If we can play those shots, if we can play those shots, there have been children on the streets in the school uniform. Some of the injured, though here are children leading the protest. There are children in the school uniform, and you can see bandages around them. So we're in a very complicated phase of this internal strife in Manipur, and it has been carrying on for the last 2 days since those pictures went viral. And we're going to play for you a little clip. Of what happened at night. These are all images from the last 48 hours. Why were security forces compelled to use tear gas shells? Let's give you just a sense of that video, and then I'll come to you, Dr. Tombik. So for anyone who thinks that things are quietening down, that is, of course, not happening. Dr. Tombing, let me just bring you in at this point. You have been a voice that has been trying to create a dialogue between the two communities. As Rami mentioned, that is now the need of the hour. It really is the need of the hour. Your thoughts, sir, Dr. Tombing?
I feel very sad for the incident that has happened, and I condemn this dastardly act of killing two innocent souls. It is very unbecoming of whoever had done this dastardly act, and this does not augur well for the entire state of Manipur, across the community, and then for all purposes and for all walks of life. What I see of this incident is that some of the feeds that are available, the report says that these two students, they went missing on July 6th, and then their last phone was located at certain distance, 48 kilometers away from Imphal, and some information are out that the boy was killed on 8th, and then on 11th the girl was killed. Now this has led to new suspicion of who might have been the culprit of this heinous act, and then this dastardly act. And this might be used by certain vested interested communities, or maybe certain vested interested person, to stoke up anger and hatred and violence against both the communities again. Therefore, it is very pertinent that the CBI investigation is thoroughly done. And what I also learned from some available information, which are not verified, but then they seem plausible, was that there was some kind of other aspects of their life which went maybe on social media, or something happened, and maybe the action might have been in retaliation to an extreme moral policing. So we do not know who has done that, right? So
well, we need the CBI to investigate
exactly,
and reach
and
its conclusion.
If
Yes.
it cannot be conclusively said that it is who has done, then the entire state is going to burn and boil again. And the saddest part is that I have grown up during the time of 1990s and 1998. It reminded me of student agitation at that time. During those days, students could not have their classes also. And then there were different batches of students for one semester of classes, etc. And what I see now is students coming out in the open, protesting, and then they are very emotionally charged. Their sentiments are running very high. And this might be a kamikaze for the rest of the students in the Imphal Valley areas, because they are mentally disturbed. And then it seems to them that the state has died, the idea of humanity has died, and they are crying out for protection and shelter, ensuring that humanity is brought back. And that cry for justice is very loud. it pains me. I cannot sleep at night. I've been following this feed
Yeah.
all this night, and
I think that's a very important
yeah,
point that you make. I think that's a very important point that you make, that the young today are feeling mentally agitated. They're feeling
right.
orphaned in a way by the state. I want to take that back to Rami. We're also going to try and cross over to a doctor who's joining us on the phone line from one of the hospitals in Manipur. But Rami, you made this point that the state will have limited solutions. There has to be a community dialogue. But you heard what Dr. Tombing said, and on this program we have. I haven't overstated their ethnic identities, but for the record, one of our professors is from the Meitei community, another is from the Kuki community, and both are calling for that kind of intra-state dialogue that is the need of the hour. But we also need the state to wield moral authority as well as protect citizens. That is very important. You need people to be disarmed. The weapons that are in civilian control, you need the state intervention. How can dialogue happen till civilians are disarmed, Rami?
Absolutely, Barkha. There's no doubt about it that they need to be disarmed, because it's not people like you and me who will use the weapons if given to us. It is the fringe element. It is people who are trained in it. I did speak to some of the forces who were on ground there, and they said, the level of training and expertise, also some of the people who are wielding arms, is exceptional. But like I said, if there is trust deficit, there isn't one community that is willing to lay down their arms before the other, and it is very sad, because it seems like we're in a bit of a deadlock. And of course, I agree, there's no doubt about it that, the government has to do the best it can. There are 21 SITs on ground at the moment, and there is investigation going on. But I think the gamut, and, this is not, this is just me trying to assess the situation the best way I can. I think just the gamut of layers and complications and the complex conflict now that we have in front of us is so large that it is becoming more and more difficult to unravel it. But like the professor previously said, that these students are losing patience, because obviously at that age, to be confined, to be seeing this kind of conflict is possibly very, very demotivating, because where do you see your future go? And we must remember, last 6 years Manipur did see relative peace, and I've been traveling there for 15-20 years, and we've seen it traverse from conflict to peace, and it can happen again. And that's what I would like to say through your show, is I hope that these young students don't lose that hope, and they can really actually create bridges between communities, and that's what we should be focusing on. And responsibility and stakeholding and accountability can always be demanded, not just today, but even once some amount of normalcy comes in. Like you said yourself, look at the kind of even the forces, look at the kind of pelting that is going on against them with stones, with marble. They've also had 4 months of immense pressure, and we must keep that in mind as well. We look at them as an institution, we don't look at them as people.
No, I want to say that one of the things that has disturbed me a lot is soldiers being asked to show identity cards to prove which ethnic community they belong to, and women have, women in Manipur have been at the front line of protest, and the soldiers then can't do anything because they will not use force in most cases against women, and in this case also you have women and students primarily on the streets. Now, just for a moment before I come back to Colonel Chaturvedi and to Professor Ramesh Singh and others, I want to go across to Dr. Pellet of Manipur Shija Hospital. Dr. Pellet, if you can hear me, can you describe the situation in the hospital? We are told that 50 students have been injured. What are the kind of injuries that you are seeing? How many injured have had to be hospitalized, Dr. Pellet?
Yeah, nice talking to Barkha Dutt. And regarding the students, we have received 8 patients, students yesterday, and out of these 3 are minor injuries we have discharged. And right now we have 5 patients severely injured, and I need to mention about one patient who has got the right shoulder engulfed, and it is the joint is exposed with 90 splinters. And yesterday we have operated, and 60 splinters silencer were removed. And the repairing it will be very difficult to remove. Rather, removal
Can I
will be
can
more.
I can I can I can I ask you to repeat that, because sir, 1 minute. You said that in one case you removed 90 splinters. Did I hear you correct?
Out of 90, we have removed 60.
And how old is this patient?
Sorry.
How old is this patient? How old is this
Ah,
patient?
the student is 17 years old.
And he's got 90
It is
splinters.
all below 20 years. The very, very particular patient with a shoulder injury is 17 years old, according to the family. And another patient with is the rubber bullet hit on the middle of the face, fracturing the zygoma and the nasal bone, and one eye is lost. Lost means blind. And the patient is semi-conscious, and we are waiting for the neurosurgery clearance so that the plastic surgeon will do the repair of the fracture bone. And it is also very serious. And we have another two patients, two students with multiple splinters on the head and neck and lower leg.
So,
And
sir,
other,
in one of the other students, he's lost his vision in one eye. One student has lost his vision in one eye.
Yes.
And
One
in
of the one
and
of the,
another case, another student has 90 splinters. You managed to remove 60.
yes. The students the facial injury. They say it is hit in the center of the face with rubber bullets and fracturing the nasal bone and the right zygoma, and one eye is black right now.
It's very disturbing to hear these details, Dr. Palin. There is a lot of debate over whether pellet injuries have been caused. Can you confirm that, sir, if that has happened?
Bullet injuries, three are bullet injuries. Bullet in the sense it is the pellet having gun with the pellets. The one with this shoulder injury must have been fired from the close range. That's why 90 pellets inside the body, and the other two maybe from a distance. That's why it is scattered, not many pellets. So this is all gun with the pellets.
So you are saying three of the injuries of students, Dr. Palin, three of the injuries of students in your hospital are from pellet injuries.
Three are pellet injury.
Three are pellet injuries. All right.
Uh,
And at the moment, sir, how many students are hospitalized? How many students are hospitalized, sir?
out of 8 attended in the hospital, 3 discharged and the 5 are still admitted right now.
Five students are still in hospital.
Yes.
And I'm just going to recap. 3 of them have pellet injuries, and in one case, the student has lost his vision in one eye. In another case, there is a fracture right across the middle of his face. And there are 5 students still in hospital. What age are they? They're all under 20, or are they all under 18?
0-20 only. And
All right.
yes, the one with the shoulder injury, joints are injured, and all the tendons passing above the joint, that is responsible for the abduction of the elbow, that is lost. So patient, the student will not be able to abduct the elbow unless we do some repair later on.
So the student has lost the use of his elbow.
Not the elbow, abduction of the elbow at the shoulder.
I see.
Abduction of the arm at the shoulder.
Yes,
will
sir.
be lost due to the loss of the tendon responsible
Yes.
for the abduction of the arm, right arm.
All right. Very disturbing details, Dr. Palin. I don't want to interfere with your work. You're confirming to us that 3 injuries of 5 students still hospitalized, all under the age of 20, are evidently from pellet injuries. One student has lost his vision in one eye. Another student has 90 splinters, of which you have removed 60. Thank you, Dr. Palin. We'll reconnect with you. I don't want to keep you from attending to your patients. I want to return to our guests. These are details from the doctor on duty, Colonel Chaturvedi, sir. It's all around disturbing. That's what I can say. Colonel Chaturvedi, your thoughts, sir?
Okay, ma'am. First thing, see, I have been through this through a trained eye. That clipping of the police guys firing.
Yes,
Actually,
sir.
they are firing less. They are under a lot of,
Yeah,
explosive.
I want to show that image. Can we share the screen and show the
Yeah.
image? Yeah. Can we add it to the screen so that Colonel
Yeah.
Chaturvedi can talk about it? Yes,
So
Colonel, go
apart
ahead.
from, if you see,
Yeah.
they have fired what, 4 rounds, but if you see inside, that crowd, those explosions, they are coming from the crowd end. So actually, the police is not firing so much. I can count 5 rounds, 6 rounds now. But from
Yes,
that,
sir.
the other side also, people are throwing and firing something, which are not reaching them.
Yes.
See this one. This
Yes.
this is a smoke. This thing. This is not being fired by the police. So
Can
what
we
is
play those?
happening is,
Sir, 1 minute. I need the right pictures to play. Can I play? Can we
yeah,
have that video
yeah,
play, please? Sir, so give me a second. Let that video come up.
yeah,
No, not this one. The video that we were playing. Can we please have that? Can we have the
yeah.
pictures where the police is firing, please? If we can have those pictures, Colonel Chaturvedi, please go ahead while we're, yes.
Okay,
Can we
now
take these
if we
on our screen, sir? 1 minute, sir. I need to take these with you, sir. I need to take these.
see, yeah, see, this
Yeah,
police guy just got hit also. The one in
yeah,
the middle, who's ahead
yeah.
now. So it's a situation which is happening, and
Yes, sir.
both ends are firing. While
Yes, sir.
it is evident to me that the police guys are also putting a lot of restraint on their firing. See, those explosions which are happening, these are not of the rifle rounds. These are explosions which somebody is doing it in the crowd itself. So I mean, while as as humanity and all, it's wrong to fire and all, but then it is evident that the other side is also lobbing some kind of explosive devices or whatever it is. See, this is a smoke something. So if it is
Yes.
smoke, then it has to have the white phosphorus in it, which is coming from the other side. So I
So
think
you're saying when you look at this clip, you're
yeah,
basically saying that while it looks like the police is using force, the police
yeah,
is also being fired on, and it's probably being
absolutely.
fired on more than they are using force.
Absolutely. So while the whole situation is a bad situation, I agree.
Yeah.
But the police is meant to sort out bad situations. It is their
Yes.
job to do it. So
Yeah.
while I agree that there would be some firing in self-defense by the police also, I'm not denying, and it's not a, I mean, it's not a flower market happening, it's a mob. But then the thing is that the other side is also firing more than them. They are lobbing explosive devices on them. So I think the
Yeah.
need is to have a lot of restraint on the on both ends. And yes, even the most trained guys in the earth can become
Of
edgy at times.
course.
With that.
We
Uh,
just can't have people on the street. The moment you have people on the street taking on security forces, something is going to happen that is just terrible all around.
yes.
Professor Singh, sir, can you hear me, sir? Please go ahead with your thoughts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
I want to return to also
I-
the accounts from the hospital. The accounts from the
yeah,
hospital. I
yeah.
hope you were able to hear the doctor. And if we can show the images of some of the injured in the hospital, 5 are still in hospital. The doctor confirms to us. Can we go ahead, Professor Singh?
Hello. The video clip that we have now, it may not be the whole clip of the entire way of controlling the mob, and we also need to look into the mob
Professor Singh, we
control the
lost you,
mob.
I think. You're back.
Hello.
You're back. Go ahead. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah.
we lost you
So,
briefly. Yeah.
so what I
Yeah.
was saying is that this video clip may not be the whole clip of the entire incident that the security forces was trying to control the mob.
Yeah.
And looking back to the student protest, maybe day before yesterday,
Yeah.
and to the way they are trying to control the student peaceful rally of the student, I think it is something that we need to take into consideration. And they could, the security forces and the state force, they could have used the water cannon also, some other alternative way of controlling the situation, instead of firing, instead of using the tear gas. I mean, why they are, we are not using the water cannon to disperse the crowd?
Yeah,
So this is
I let
one thing
Colonel
that,
Chaturvedi. I'll let Colonel Chaturvedi take that very briefly, because I do have to take closing comments now from Dr. Tombing and Rami. Colonel Chaturvedi, water cannons.
How many places is the violence happening? What is the availability of water cannons? How many water cannons are there in the Imphal Valley at this day? Where all are they deployed? What is the most important point of engagements with the mob? This might not be the most important point of engagement. There would be a very heavy mob somewhere else. So in a mob like, in a greatly violent situation, there are various points of contact, and the senior most security force commanders at the point would be sending out the potential to mitigate the issue. I mean, this is not a I would not say that this is a terrorist encounter. It's a mob situation, so it will not be restricted to this only, I suppose. And
Yeah.
this has reached this in maybe 2 decades. You know, it's been happening off and on, off and on, off and on. So
Yeah, I literally want to say that I'm thinking, I want to go back to, Dr. Tombing, and I'll give Rami the last word. The students who are frustrated, mentally agitated, you heard the doctor,
yeah,
the doctor is now talking about 5 student injuries, all of them under 20. The teenagers who were found killed one was 17, one was 20, a girl and a boy. Uh, Dr. Tombing, there has to be a way. We have to move ahead from this. It's been fifth month. We're in the 5th month of this crisis, Dr. Tombing.
Yes, yes. In fact, my heart goes out to the students of Manipur. When we
Yeah.
were growing up in the 90s, maybe our elders have failed us, our leaders have failed us. We could have been those students in the 1990s. And in 2023, death of 2 students. One student was aspiring to be a doctor, and that has unleashed so much of sentiments and emotion. Uh, uh, I feel that, because of this ethnic unruly mayhem that has been unleashed in Manipur from May 3rd, we have failed our coming generation. And what else can we say? We failed them, and we are very sorry that students have to be involved in this kind of an incident. They are being shot at, and then they're being injured by pellets. One student have lost his sight. Very unconventional things, and I wish that some sense prevail to whoever has the power to control this particular violence, so that there are no more escalation of violence and no more death. Finally, it is our future generation that we need to preserve, give them hope, give them compassion, and then a bright future to look forward to. This is all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you for your heartfelt comments, and thank you to we have not got into that cycle of competitive grief. Your grief is worse than mine. Your student is suffering more than mine. Our women are suffering more than yours, and I want to thank all of you for that. Rami, a quick last word. Quick last word.
Barkha, I think, I have to end by saying that I have to agree with everybody that it's so sad that these young people have to see this sort of time, that they have to see this sort of conflict, that they have to go through this sort of emotional stress, because this sort of trauma is not going to leave them very soon. And of course, we have to take the responsibility on ourselves for having failed them. Having said that, why are they protesting? They're protesting because their heart goes out for the 2 students that were killed, people their own age. But, honestly, I don't think, the 2 students who've given their lives would really want to see the valley burning up again. And I think they themselves would not want to see other students being hurt. And I think this is something that, all the students on protest must remember, that peace in the valley is hugely important, because if that does not come, we have simply played into the hands of the vested interests that have an interest in keeping this conflict alive.
I think we can all agree on that. We need to start somewhere. I don't know where we should start, but to see 17-year-olds on the street, to see little children being pulled into this conflict, to see children with guns in one community, farmers with guns in another, the CBI being obstructed from even investigating any of the cases that the Supreme Court has asked to investigate. And may I remind everybody, if we can just for one moment go on the picture of this father, to just focus for one moment on the devastated parents of the two teenagers and the pain that they must be feeling. But again, there is suffering across communities. There is suffering in every home in Manipur today. And we must remember that today and look for a way to move ahead and forward and emerge from the shadows of this conflict. To Colonel Chaturvedi, to Dr. Tombing, to Professor Singh, and to Rami, thank you very much. To our audience, we'll continue to be focused on the Manipur story. It is one of the most important stories in the country right now, and we promise you our committed reportage and coverage. Thank you for watching. Take care. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.